Hey people, welcome back to World Drum Club. I'm Kalani Das, your host and teacher. I've got a drum that's got a broken head, which is, something that happens. I'm going to show you a really easy way to change the head in this video. You just take your head, your new head, replacement head, like this. Make sure that you find the right direction. You got a rough side and a side that's a little bit smoother. So you want to make sure the smooth side is on top. And then what you got to do is you get it lined up. It's very important to be centered when you do this. So just line it up and then okay, it's not that simple, but we are going to learn how to replace a Conga head right now. World Drum Club. All right, so obviously, if you want to replace a drum head, you need to get a drum head to replace it. I bought this one. Now, this is a mule skin. This is a cow skin. And you can have calf too, still cow, but we've got basically three types of heads. Now the mass-produced heads, which is not the subject of this video, those are mostly bison or water buffalo. You can go with steer, you can go with cow, or you can go with mule. Those are the more common ones. I'm just gonna give you a quick difference between the two. Cow is generally considered a little more fatty and therefore a little warmer, a little longer sustain. All right. Mule, which is what this is, a little more dry, a little more staccato, precise, shorter, maybe punchy. So this is a choice that you have to make. I'm going to try the mule because I haven't tried it before. This skin was great. It's very old. It finally gave way, and so we're just gonna see what happens. And I'll give you guys a comparison with the mule and the remaining drums that I have like this with cow skin, so you can kind of hear the difference. But the first step is you get a head from a reputable source, and I will leave some links for patrons at our Patreon page for you to get a hold of some skins. You want to buy skins from somebody who sells Conga skins, right? But that's a mule skin. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna take that and we're gonna throw it in some water so it can start to soften up so we can put it on the head. Make sure you use cold water. All right, we got enough water in here. Put your new head in. At the same time, we're going to remove the hoop. Well, first we're gonna take the lugs, loosen the lugs. So you're gonna go around your drum and get these loose enough so you can take them out. And then once you've got all those out, take the ring off. You can inspect the ring, maybe clean it up a little bit. I see that this one has some little kind of schmutzy stuff on the inside, so I might just take some WD-40, go around here, wipe it off, get all that stuff off of it. It's pretty clean, but that's something that you can do. Then you've got your flesh hoop inside of this head, and that's the metal ring that the counter hoop or the top hoop is pressing against, and it's keeping the head locked down. It's your tuning mechanism basically. So we need to get this out of here, and since this head is basically a piece of rawhide, it's wrapped around that hoop. It does not want to give up the hoop, so we need to also soak this head. So we're going to throw that into the tub as well. You can use a bucket or tub. I'm just gonna throw these in the bathtub. Put your old head in. Here's a pro tip for you guys. Put something on this so it submerges completely, and since this is thicker, it goes at the deep end. That's a pro tip. This is thinner, it can go at the shallow end where you put your feet. Now that we've got the old head soaking, the new head soaking, I'm just gonna inspect the drum. This is a time where you can have access to the inside of your drum in a bigger way, literally, than from the bottom. So it's a time to inspect the shell, get a flashlight maybe, look in there. You might have some hairline cracks. If you do have little hairline cracks, now would be a time to fill them. I recommend something like 5-minute epoxy. Comes in a double syringe tube, squirt it out, spread it on, you're done. All right, go around, look at the edge, the bearing edge, clean it up if you need to, make sure everything's cool. You can take your lug, these are your lugs, your tension rods. This is the lug down here. This is the tension rod, this is the tension nut. So you could take these down, taking them apart a little bit if you want to do some, put some grease on there, do a little inspection, and just do some maintenance. Now would be the time to do that. So once our heads are softened and ready to put on, we're going to continue. So we're going to hop on the iPhone for this video real quick. We're going to look inside the drum. And you can see the slats, the glue, apparently some graffiti artists have gotten inside this drum. This is a unique feature, not on all drums. It's a steel band that runs around the inside of the shell near the top, and it's a stabilizing band. It helps keep the drum round. It also, I think, aids in the sound of the drum in terms of the punchiness of the drum. But that's a feature of the skin-on-skin drums. Some other drums have this feature, maybe not all have it, but that's the handmade nature of this particular instrument. All right, so I've got the old head out of the tub. It's been soaking in the tub for, I think, about 3 hours, and this head is relaxed. It's so relaxed. Look at this. So very pliable. And I dried it off a little bit. It's kind of it feels like rubber. Kind of interesting. So I want to show you now what you're going to do. You're going to take the flesh hoop. This is called the flesh hoop. And it's the metal ring. And now it's very easy to get out. And that's it. And then you can take a little rag, and I'm just going to wipe all the moisture off because this is basically untreated steel and it's gonna rust. So I probably will go over this with a little coat of WD-40, not too much. I don't want to get a lot of chemicals, into the skin, but just something to coat it. And that's it. You don't have to do anything to this. Just leave it alone and it will wait to get the new head. I'm leaving the new head in there longer because it's just not softening up that much. I think the mule, for some reason, is just more stubborn than the cow. I'm not sure why. So what you can do with this, if you want, now I want to be clear about this. I don't necessarily recommend this, but this is rawhide. And if you give your dogs rawhide bones, you can basically make some dog treats out of this. Now, I just want to be clear, I'm not an advocate of that. I hear that the rawhide's not great for the dogs. It's kind of hard to digest. But if you or your dogs want to eat rawhide, you've now got a gigantic free dog treat for them with hand flavoring, by the way. Okay, so that's where we're at right now. The other head's still soaking, so we're going to check back in a few minutes. All right, the head has soaketh. I got the head soaked. Actually, I'm gonna be honest with you guys, this is a different head because the head I was trying to put on, I had some issues with. I started making the video with that head and it was way too uneven. I'm probably gonna swap it for one that's a little more even and a little thinner. I realized that, you can put a thicker head on a larger drum. This is not a large drum, this is a smaller size drum. And I'm going with another head I had, also mule, but a little bit thinner. So I just want to be honest. This is a little bit different head. Didn't have to soak it as long. Still had to soak it a while because that mule is stubborn. All right, so now we're gonna put the head on. First thing, we got the drum cleaned up. I sprayed a little bit, not sprayed on here, but I put some on a rag. I put some silicone, water resistant, just to keep this inner ring from rusting. These are untreated. This is untreated steel in here. I don't want a bunch of rust coming up on my head. So I coated that. I pulled off all the tension rods and I cleaned them up and I dabbed a little bit of grease on there because you want to, you know, grease is the best. If you don't mind putting a little grease on these, you get that tuning happening. You'll be in good shape. You could spray it with WD-40 or something, but that's more of a temporary thing. So get some oil in there, heavy oil, or put some grease in there, and you'll be a happy conga tuner. So for this job, obviously we need all of our hardware, our tension rods and lug nuts and washers. We're gonna be using some clamps to help us get the head in place. We're gonna have some, these are some vice grips, kind of like needle nose vice grips. You could also use pliers. I do have some pliers I might use if I need to pull the head around. Obviously, we're gonna need a tuning wrench, eventually, a little bit at the start, and then we're gonna need a blade, single blade, for trimming the head. So the first thing we're gonna do, here's a few other items you might wanna have before you start changing the head. Goggles, wood filler, battery charger, vacuum adapter, multi-plug extension cord, door hinge, rotary sandpaper, metronome, pliers, caliper, kashishi, motorcycle oil filter, insulative tape, right angle, left angle, bubble wrap. We're gonna grab our flesh hoop. Remember, this is the hoop that goes inside of the drum head. Before we get to that though, I wanna show you something that could be critical if you're deciding to do this. You've got two sides to this head, right? The inside and the outside. Literally, actually, you've got the side that was on the inside, which is gonna be a little funky, and the way you can tell is that it looks like it was probably cut a little bit, or it's just got funk on it. It's not smooth. It's not the hair side. So the hair side, which would be the outside, is gonna be smoother. That's the side you wanna have up. I know this might seem like a no-brainer. I just wanna clarify that there are two different sides to the head. So make sure you get the skin side or the outside on the upside. All right, so you do that. Now this head's pretty even. I'm just gonna put it right in the middle. If you have a thicker or thinner side of the head, you wanna cheat it over, you can try that. It's easier if you just put the head on, center it on the drum like this, and go from there. Then I've got my flesh hoop, which I did clean up also with a little bit of silicone spray. I want to note where my lugs are. So I'm going to put one lug. This is a 5 lug drum, so I'm going to put one facing me. And then I know the rest is like a star shape. And that comes important because we're going to put this ring on so it's just a little bit on the drum. And what I want to do, what I want to end up with is I want to end up with this head tucked under the counter hoop. And I want to have about a 1/2 inch of collar, which is the difference between the bearing edge and the hoop after it's put on. I don't want too much collar because I need to crank this up a bit. And this is a higher drum, so I'm going to put some tension on it. I don't want to have a whole bunch of collar. A, so I don't run out of tuning threads, right? That would suck if I ran out of tuning threads. And B, just because the more head you have on the sides, the more stretchy that's going to be, the faster my head's going to wear out. And it could, I think it makes it a little bit less tight of a sound in that, well, that's just my belief. I think it's better to have less collar, but I don't want too little collar either. I don't want that edge, I don't want that rim, the metal rim right up, close to the bearing edge, because that's where my hand is going. So there's a little bit of area here where you want to end up with, I think, about a 1/2 inch to at the most like 1 inch or 2 centimeters. So 1 to 2 centimeters. I'm trying to convert to metric, okay? Are you proud of me? Everybody outside the United States and England is like, yeah, well, of course. Sorry, guys. I don't know what to tell you. When I was 7, in like 1970, they were saying, the metric system's coming. The metric system is coming. We're going to convert over to the metric system. It hasn't happened. That was 47 years ago. Let's move on. So what we're going to do is I'm going to slide this down a little. I have a little bit of collar on this. And the reason we want to do this, and you might think, well, why don't you just put the head on and then you can kind of move it around? No, you can't. Once you get this thing kind of folded in with the head. You'll see in a minute. Once you get this thing sort of folded all together, it's really hard to create more slack in there because you basically are pinching. This is going to fold over like this, and then the hoop's coming down on top of it. It's literally a vise. It's clamping in there. You're not going to, you can move it a little. That's why we have the pliers. You can get a little slack out, but it's hard to add. It's hard to make there be more head in there or to lower this. So what we're going to do, and this is just something that I'm doing. I don't know if other people do this. I think other people probably use clamps, but I don't know for sure. I haven't seen a lot of how to put a Conga head videos online. So what I'm going to do is we're going to start off here. I know where all my lug nuts are, my lugs, and I'm going to start, and I'm going to put a little bit of collar. I'll do this over here so you can see better. I'm going to put a little bit of collar, and I know I want to go here because we're going to put our tension rods here. So I'm going to put the clamp over here to hold it. So I've got a little bit, right? A little bit of collar. And I'm going to fold this over. And then I'm going to put a clamp. And these are just cheap clamps. I got these at Harbor Freight for $1 each. Then I'm going to come over to the other side and do one of these. And I'm giving myself a little collar over here. I'm going to fold that, put a clamp. And let's go back over here. And I know these are going to end up in a star shape. So I'm just going to do, I'm just kind of using my finger, like maybe the first pad of my finger. I don't know. It's not scientific. And we can move this around a little bit, like I said, after. Doesn't have to be absolutely perfect. The idea with this is it's going to make it easier later. So, because I'm not going to have to wrestle this head down onto this drum. It's giving me a little to play with here. And then I got one more coming over here. And those are the initial clamps holding this in place. Now, I'm going to grab the counter hoop. And I'm going to have to work this in a little. So now I need to get this thing. This is where it starts to get kind of into a little bit of wrangling and finagling and finessing. But, you work your way around. I'm probably going to pause this camera in a minute because you guys don't want to sit here. I guess I could do like a fast forward thing, but then I'm just sort of burning through SD cards like crazy. Taking up all kinds of computer hard disk space. By the way, I use solid state drives exclusively. Just in case you're interested, for all my production. I went to solid state a while ago. I love it. I only use solid state drives. I have a bunch of mechanical drives that I use for backups, but most of the time I am working the SSD action. You know what I'm saying? All right, well, that wasn't too bad. I just kind of did that while I was rambling at you guys. So you see, now I gotta make sure I'm lining up. Gotta make sure I'm lining these up. And before I put any of the tension rods on, I wanna make sure that this is all lined up. So I'll probably pause the camera and do that and come back to y'all in a minute. But this is kind of what you're going for, right? So you're gonna keep working this down. Then, let's see if I can just do one. The key is you wanna get one of these on, right? So you get one of your tension rods on. You gotta get in there, all right? So get on that. Get that guy down there. And then, of course, that gets a washer and a nut. And like I said, these are pre-lubricated. But I got some grease in there. Some nice grease. All right, so I'm just going to put that on a little because I need to get the other side down. And really, honestly, I could probably take these clamps off at this point, but I'm just going to leave them. Then, so the tricky part is we get one on. That's okay. Anybody can get one on, but can you get two on? That's the question. So now I gotta really line this up, and I'm gonna go to kind of the opposite side. Not exactly, because it's a star. And get in there. Oh, yes. And I have threads. All right? We have threadage over here. So this is why I gave myself the luxury of that extra collar, because I'm telling you guys, if you don't give yourself a little extra collar, it's really hard to get this head on. And now I can take these out because, hey, because, where's that other, is it under there? Okay, well, it's out now. You know, these are kind of cheap clamps. I probably don't even need these rubber bits, but it's okay. These little tips are like staying in there. That'd be funny if I put the head on. It'd be a Homer Simpson moment if I ended up putting these all under the shell. And then I'd have to claim that it was some sort of special technique. But I'm not going to do that. Okay, so now this is good. I feel good about this. So now I'm just going to work this a little bit. You know, this is critical because once you get all these tension rods pulling down on here, if you think you're going to be able to move it this way, rotate it, maybe un poquito. But we don't want to have to do that. So what I'm doing right now is I'm just pulling out, you know, any wrinkles, just snug it up, because I know it's not going to go, the whole thing's not going to come up, so I can be a little more aggressive in as much as I'm pulling up on the head. And then I'm going to keep adding these, just go around. Yeah, beautiful. There's another one. Thanks for hanging out on the video this long. I wish I had maybe if I knew some jokes, I could just talk to you guys. If you're watching this, like sitting here in real time watching this, I appreciate it, but that's awesome. And I'm really happy with the way this is coming together, because this is really not a super easy task. Although I can now claim to have provided you with some quality information, because it's obviously working well. Like just self-congratulatory comments. All right, but this is the whole point, you know, we want to help each other. I appreciate you guys being drummers and ladies, gals. I don't know, what are we supposed to say these days? Anything you say sounds wrong. All right, so here's these are kind of like vice grip pliers. So what I'm going to do now is I want to have the rim. Where is the rim? I think it's, you know what? I'm not going to pull too much slack out of this because I don't want to have the rim way up high. I just want to make sure that there's no wrinkles in it. So I'm going around. I don't want any creases, of course. And I think we're okay. Yeah, it can come down a little bit. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to add some pressure. And I'm going to tighten, just start hand tightening these and work my way around. So what I do want to talk about a little bit is the drying process. And, you know, we'll come back and check, but I kind of want to cover as much ground as I can right now. The drying process is critical. And what you're going to do is you're going to put enough tension on this head so there's no loose nuts, no loose tension rods. You're going to have a low tone, and then you're going to leave it. And don't of course, don't try to tighten it way up. Don't be silly. But you can put a fair amount of pressure, just don't go crazy. We want to get it snug down. And the reason we want to get it fairly snug is if you don't tighten it enough and this head starts to dry out, actually it's sort of counterintuitive. You think that it would just get tight and tight and tight and flatten out and get really tight. Actually, if you don't have enough tension on it, it can end up with a little valley. It'll get tighter, but it'll also end up with sort of, I don't know how to describe it. It's like the drum head will go up to the bearing edge, and instead of going flat across, it'll actually go down a little and then across. And you'll have this weird sort of valley, like you could put some water in the head and it would stay in there. Just a little, but you don't want that. It's not good. It's not professional. So in order to mitigate that, I was hoping I could use the word mitigate at some point this week. In order to mitigate that, you're going to keep tightening it a little bit. You know, check on the drum head, let's say every, I don't know, 4 or 5 hours. You know, twice a day, 3 times a day. And just give all the lugs a little turn, couple turns, enough so you keep a little tension on there. And then once the top gets dry, and the top's going to dry out in a day or two, no problem. Then you can stop doing that. You don't have to check it as much, but then you're going to want to wait a few more days to be on the safe side, because obviously where you've got, yeah, this looks good. Where you've got the head in between the flesh hoop and the counter hoop, or the rim, it's going to take a while to dry out. So we can't rush that. If you start trying to crank this head down and this is still damp in here, or just any kind of extra moisture, you know, it's soft, it's pliable, it's vulnerable. All right, so just wait, you know, give it a few days, no rush, check on the head. You can come out and you can imagine, you know, you can covet it. You can imagine what it'll be like to play it, how great it'll be and all that, but just don't crank it down. And that's it. So the next step, and am I gonna do this in front of you? I think I might. The next step, once we get some tension on here, and I'm really liking where this head is ending up. Right now what I'm doing is I'm kind of checking to make sure that the rim is somewhat centered on the drum. Of course, there shouldn't be a lot of play, but if I reach under here, I can feel, you know, maybe it needs to go a little bit. Yeah, see, that feels pretty even. Maybe a little bit that way. Yeah, so you can, you know, move it around a little. Just make sure it's centered. It's gonna all take care of itself anyway when you start cranking down on it, so it's really not critical. We're almost ready to trim. So this turned out to be a long video, but maybe I'll edit some out. I'll probably speed some up. But I've been talking the whole time, so maybe it'll be the longest video ever I made, the longest video I've ever made. So now I'm gonna go around and give these just a little bit of actual wrench pressure. And the other thing I'm keeping an eye on here is kind of like the amount of tension rod that I'm seeing coming below the lug nut. You know, I just want to make sure it's all pretty even, and I'm not cranking down one side more than the other side. You know, all the common sense stuff. You guys know what to do. But I'm just getting some pressure on here because now, yeah, so I got a little pressure. Now this is all locked in, and now this is not going anywhere. So now there's my head. It's getting pretty locked in there. Yeah, I like this. I've got the rim just below the top of the head, so that should work out. I'm guessing it should work out pretty well. Now I'm gonna trim it. And the way I'm gonna do that is I've got my blade. Doesn't matter where you start. Maybe I'll start on the thinner part. There's some thin, a little bit thinner over here. I'm gonna run it this way. So let's just dive in here. A little nervous. I want to definitely work away from, I'm just trying to get this started without cutting myself. Can I go through there? Wow, this is really tough. I definitely don't want to jam this into the head, right? So I want to go along the head and I want to work it out away from myself and from the head. So I'm going to go this way. And I might just go ahead and grab on. It's going to be easier if I should just use pliers for this, but these are okay. So I'm going to grab onto this, try to get this through without cutting the head. And I'm going to, you know what? I think I'm going to use my hand. I can feel it better. And I'm just going to work around the drum and trim this guy, trim it up, trim this excess head off. All right, so I think I'm going to pause. You guys can see what I'm doing here. I'm just cutting it so it's even with the top, and then that is going to shrink up and go below the edge, so I won't feel it when I'm playing. But that's basically the idea. Just going to work your way around the drum. You can use the rim as a guide. But see there, once you get going, there we go. Pull up on it a little bit, and you can just carefully go around. Okay, so you can see there's some trimmed edge right there. All right, so I'm gonna pause this for a minute, finish this up, come back in a minute. That's right, people. All right, I've got a new necklace. Actually, you can have one of these. It's going to be on eBay for the incredibly low price of $59.99. And, you know, happy bidding. All right, so, yeah. I got to say, you know, to be honest with you guys, this went better than I had expected. You know, anything can happen when you go do live work like this. And it's not like I do this for a living. You know what I'm saying? I'm a drummer, percussionist. Now, I am a DIY. Yeah, I'm dyslexic too. I'm a DIY guy. And so I build stuff. You know, I just built a fence. I put in my kitchen, put in all my floors in my house. So I like doing things. I like working with my hands. But I'll tell you, I'm going to show this. I'm going to show this off right now. You know, I believe if you're gonna engage in an art form and use the tools of the art form, then you really want to get into knowing about the instrument. I'm not saying you all have to do this and change the Conga Head yourself, but it's important. I want to thank you for watching this if you are a percussionist, or even if you're a band director or somebody else, you know, in a related field that you just want to know these things for your own knowledge base. But there is a satisfaction to solving your own problem. You know, replacing a drum head, changing the oil in your car, doing things for yourself. It's a sense of empowerment, it's independence, and you know, it's part of the craft. And I think we've gotten away in large part from being what I would call, you know, I don't want to sound judgmental here, but like a complete musician in the sense that, you know, you maintain your instruments. And I realize some of you may not have the means to order heads and put them on or all that. And that's a different issue. But I just want to say that for me, and I hope for you, if you ever do this, that it's just a really satisfying feeling. And I'm going to play on this now, and I feel more connected to this drum, knowing that I put this head on myself. I've put heads on djembes, I put heads on bongos, congas, and it's just a satisfying feeling. So my hope is that this will give you the tools you need to replace your own drum head. I'll try to leave some links below this video so you can get your hands on some drum heads. Yeah, I'm really happy with the way this turned out. You know, I trimmed the head off, obviously, trimmed the excess, and I then eyeballed it and I want to make sure that the rim is flat, it's even, it's got enough pressure, it's pulling down, that there's no loose nuts. And then this is going to sit, and I might put it outside, but I'm not going to put it in the sun for sure. I might put it outside. It's a little dry these days, and I think it just might dry out better than in my little studio room here. So I might put it outside, and then I'll definitely keep an eye on it. I'll come back to it. I'll be tuning it up over the next day or two, and then in a few days we'll see the finished product. All right, but yeah, that's it. We'll check back when the drum is in a more playable state. But don't forget to bid on the rawhide Imperial necklace. It's been a couple days since the last segment, and as you can see, my Imperial necklace is ready to be sold. So make sure you go to eBay and bid on that. And I wanted to just share this with you guys. I'm so happy with the way this turned out. I gotta say, it's been a while since I've replaced a Conga Head. Many years, actually. So again, let's recap. This is Mule. And look at that, it's just beautiful. You can see the overhead view, the front view. I wanted to show you that I said I wanted to do about a half inch, a half inch to an inch at the most. This is a smaller drum, so about a half inch to start off, and this turned out perfectly. It's just even. I kept tightening it, and I mentioned this earlier. You want to keep really every 3 or 4 hours, especially in the first part, make sure that head stays, a little tight. Not too tight, because you got to wait for the part that's around the flesh hoop to get fully dry. But I put this outside in the shade. We've had a couple days of dry, hot weather. This thing dried fast, and you would think that it would tighten and actually pull on your tension rods, but the opposite happens because this is shrinking. So you remember how big this was around here, around the flesh hoop? It was really like double size, and as that shrinks, the head actually gets looser. So you need to keep tightening a little bit just so you have a low tone. And then this is actually 2 days after the last video, and it's pretty much dry. I'm not going to crank it way up, but this is what it sounds like. So it's not low anymore. I'm keeping some pressure on it because I don't want to get that lip or the valley developing around the edge. So I'm going to do another video on the comparison of mule and cow skins. But yeah, I want to thank you guys for hanging out for this marathon video. I know it's been a long one, so but I'm really happy with the way this turned out. I'll leave a couple other links below this video for resources. There's a couple other good how to change your Conga Head videos. I'm going to link to those as well for you guys. And please keep in mind that World Drum Club is a member-supported channel. So please go to Patreon and become a member so you're helping sustain the channel. We really appreciate that. I do love what I do, but this is my work. This is what I do for a living. So if you get some value out of these videos, please show your support and show your appreciation by becoming a patron over at patreon.com/Kalani. I hope you've enjoyed this. I'll see you all in a future lesson. Thanks for watching. If you like that, give it a thumbs up. Be sure to subscribe to the channel and enjoy all the other hundreds of videos we have here at the World Drum Club YouTube channel. If you want to invest in your own education and take it to the next level, join us at patreon.com. You'll get access to me, also other videos, and a bunch of downloads that you can't get here on YouTube. Thanks for watching, and thanks for being a World Drum Club supporter.